Hi everyone, Diane here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do something which I hope you're going to find interesting. The other day I was sorting out a few drawers in my studio and I came across a whole bunch of Chinese painting equipment and some examples of Chinese painting. I can't remember where this came from, but the coincidence was that roughly about the same time I received a set of brushes from Lightwish, which are labelled here Lightwish Premium Quality Watercolor Brushes. And but they actually aren't really what you would call typical watercolor brushes, because these are Chinese bamboo calligraphy brushes, which are also suitable for painting watercolor. And so I thought, oh, they're interesting. They're different from anything I've ever used before. And it turns out that these are exactly the right kind of brush to use if you're painting with various other things that I have, namely some Sumi colors, these ones here from Kuretake, and indeed the Kuretake paints, which we often use, are also used with these brushes. And I have various things, you know, it's almost as if I was accidentally Chinese. I've got this book, A Beginner's Guide to Chinese Painting by Maggie, which is still available secondhand on Abe Books. And I've got everything I've got paper, the right kind of paper. I've got 2 or 3 different kinds of rice paper or paper made from bamboo and so on and so forth. So I thought today I would talk about these brushes a little bit from the point of view of watercolor use and from the point of view of, I'm not going to talk about calligraphy at all because I don't really know anything about Chinese calligraphy, but I know a tiny, weeny, minuscule little bit about Chinese painting. And so I'm going to practice that with you, show you how fun it is, because it is fun, and how actually easy, and how it relates an awful lot to some of the ways in which we paint ourselves in watercolor. So it's, you know, it's all relevant. So before I talk about, no, wait a minute, should I do these first or shall I do the other things first? That's a good question. I'll talk about the brushes first, since I've got them in my hand. These are traditionally made bamboo handled. They call it wood, but I do believe it's most likely to be bamboo. There are 8 in the set, I think, or is it 9? 8. And they go all the way from very small, like this, which has, obviously that is for making fine lines and so on and so forth, and all the way up to this massive, humongous person here. Now size 6, I don't know. Oh yes, because the other 2, these little ones don't have numbers on them. So we've got all of these going down in the size like this. Now, if you were to buy this set and any other Chinese set of brushes, for example, you would find that the brush hairs are absolutely rigid. And I have only so far softened up 2 of them. What you do is you immerse the hair part in not hot water, but tepid water, and you leave that to soak for an hour or something like that. And then it's just got starch in it, which makes it absolutely rigid. And that starch will dissolve away. And then you can work it with your fingers until it goes soft, and it'll be like this. Now, when I wet this again, it'll go back to the point. So all the time it's wet, it will be pointed. But that one obviously has dried out. And that's an important thing too, if you did buy these, to make sure that you don't put them away while they're wet. They can be stored either upright, lying down, or like this. And some of them, when you buy this kind of brush, have a little loop at the top so that you can hang them. But not many people in the West do that, so I think they thought it was probably not necessary. But you must make sure they're dry before you put them away. So for example, if you decided to keep them in this tube that came with them, before you put them away and put the, I don't know what's going on in there, and put the lid on, you would make sure they were totally dry. Otherwise, the water will get into the glue. And the glue is what holds the hairs in place. There's a hole inside the shaft of the brush here, and then the hairs are bound together with twine or some fine thread or something like that. Then they're dipped into glue, and then they're pushed into the hole that is in the shaft, and then they're left to dry and they don't come out. And I haven't noticed any shedding at all on these brushes. Some people say they shed a lot, but I suspect that might be because they're doing something wrong when they activate them and they've left them sitting in water, which you definitely never do. Now, they say that these are not vegan, so I'm not going to claim that they are. They're not vegan. They are made with genuine, they say, Lightwish say this is sable. I don't know whether they know what we understand sable to be, which is the hair of marten, but I doubt if it is, because I think that's very expensive. So I'm going to assume that it's animal hair of some sort, and the Chinese have always used animal hair for their brushes. And this, I believe, I've read that this is weasel hair. So, you know, if you're strongly anti-use of anything animal in your painting, then these won't be for you. It's not synthetic hair. Unlike the quill brushes, which we were talking about, this is a completely different kettle of fish. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's an old one. That is a squirrel brush. What we want is a Meaden one, these ones here, which is synthetic. This is synthetic hair, and you can tell by looking at it, actually, come to think of it. This is an Isabey brush. No, this is an ABS brush. I've also got Isabey ones somewhere around that I have had for literally 30 years, before veganism was even invented. And this one says on it, pure squirrel. This could be squirrel too, I suppose, but someone told me it was weasel. But the Meaden ones, as you can see, they don't fluff out like that when they're wet, when they're dry rather. They keep their shape a bit better. But this one works in the same way that this one does. So, but anyway, those are different. They're made differently. They're a different thing altogether. So what else do I want to say about these? This is a very inexpensive set. It's $30 for this 8-part set. If I think of anything else relevant to say about them as we go along, I will do so. Now, let's put them aside. I'll put them in my Chinese pot. This little book is very useful if you want to actually follow this up. Maggie Cross was an Englishwoman who was born in Hong Kong and who wrote a very succinct, to the point book about painting in the Chinese style. She learnt from true Chinese painting people in Hong Kong years ago, and I've had a practice at this today, and I'll show you what I did in a minute. And then I'll try and do a bit more. And what I'm going to try and do is I'll show you how it works on the Chinese type of paper, and then I'll try and do a painting on ordinary Western type paper, I think, if I've got time. So it goes through all the different types. This is bamboo. And you see with the leaves, the way that a lot of the time I do my leaves naturally anyway is exactly, not exactly, but pretty close to the way. So it's not difficult to learn. And there's a bit of calligraphy in the back, and you need there's a nice panda. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? A little bit more advanced probably than the basic flowers, but anyway, that's a good starter's book, and you can get it, like I say, for about $10 off of Abe Books. Now, I wanted to show you the difference between then and now. This is Sumi ink, which is perfectly suitable for doing Chinese painting, but this, I have no idea where these came from. It's like the fairies came and left something in my studio. These are ink sticks. And these ones are decorated most beautifully, and probably they might even be decorated on the back as well. I don't know, they might be worth a lot of money. I have absolutely no idea. I found them the other day and I thought, I know what that is. And here's another one. This has got a little case, little wooden case. Have you ever had this experience where you think to yourself, did I do Chinese painting once upon a time, years ago? I mean, even the book is inscribed, all the best, Maggie Cross, 30th of November, 1996. I don't think this could have ever belonged to me. It must have been somebody else's and it was left here. I don't know. I can't remember any of it. And here is another more basic ink stick, which just has some writing on it. And on the other side, it's got Don't know if you can see that. It's got a sort of engraving of a person, so it's not been used. But what they used to do, and I think Maggie recommends it, and you would, wouldn't you, if you wanted to do it the right way. And we were talking not long ago, weren't we, about how much relaxation painting can bring. Well, this system, the way the Chinese do it, brings relaxation to a fine art, so to speak, because this is your ink ink stone, right? And it's just like a little tray. It's made of, I think it's made of some kind of stone. It's very hard and heavy. And what you do, apparently, is you put a few drops of water in here. I have tried this out because I found it, like I say, a few weeks ago. Did try it out. So you put a bit of water in here, and then you rub your ink stone in the water on the little tray. And before very long, the fine particles of carbon which are in the stone will break down and you'll have ink. And as Maggie says, this is sure to calm you down before you actually start the painting process, because when you do Chinese painting, the best thing is to be in a very calm frame of mind, be mindful and all that. So that's a nice idea if you want to really go into it, from square one. Here's another one. This is a bit bigger. They're very heavy and fascinating. And I'm sure you can still buy them. I know these ones are probably antique, but I'm sure you can still buy them. And I do love this little box that you can keep your inkstone in. Isn't it lovely? And then moving forward a few hundred years, maybe even a few thousand, we now have Gansai Tambi ready-made ink. These are Sumi colors, so they're meant for this kind of painting. And it's just, ready to roll. You pick up your brush and you know about this, and you get a very intense color straight away. So you don't have to worry about, you see that's very dark. I'm just doing this with an ordinary watercolor brush to show you that you can. So you don't need to spend a lot of time grinding your paint unless you really want to. And so I have this here, which is handy. And I've also got my Kuretake colors, so that when you want to do a painting, something like this, for example, which is, I think this is a chrysanthemum it's meant to be. I don't know. I think that, this is meant to be a chrysanthemum. And again, I don't know if I did it or somebody else did, but anyway, there we are. And we have other examples here of quite lovely paintings. There's a little one there. I think some of these are in the book that I showed you. These is obviously somebody's been practicing. Could have been me. Might not have been. 1996, I was in Canada. And I did do quite a few classes over there, so it's quite possible. This is good, isn't it? I like these bamboo ones particularly. So I think we'll do something like that today. This one doesn't look like it's been done by an expert, so it could have been me. Anyway, so that's that. I'll put these over here at the moment. And I've got a big roll of Chinese paper. I've cut some pieces so I can show you how it works. And here I've got the first trials that I did this morning before we started. This is just the basic strokes, practicing there. And then we went on to some shading, so with less paint and more water. So I'll show you that too. And then I did a copy. Apparently in China, it's quite acceptable, absolutely acceptable to copy the work of the masters or anyone else's work, indeed, if you like it. Apparently it is part of the whole culture of this kind of painting. So whereas in the West, it's a bit frowned on, really, isn't it? There is a sort of general frowning that goes on when people say, oh, I copied that. But there's no need to. But anyway, I copied this. And this is the one that I found in the box. obviously it's a pine tree, and I did it on some rice paper there. So, you know, I copied that. I admit it. It's a copy. And then I also rather badly copied this one, this bird here. And here he is in my version, a little bit whimsical. But that was fun. And I think I'll be going to do a lot more of this because to me it does seem quite relaxing. It's not very demanding and everything's done with just one stroke. So you can relax into it. Okay, so I'm going to practice some of the basic strokes before we go on to doing the painting. And I'm just picking up a little bit of the Sumi ink that's ready-made for me, and I'll put it on the palette here. So I've got a bit of a reservoir there. If I want to use a grey, then I just add more water. So let's see how this goes. I want it fairly dark, and I'm just kind of enjoying the relaxation of playing with ink or paint, whatever it is. Apparently a lot of Chinese people stand up to do this kind of painting, but you can sit down if you want, but you don't use an easel, apparently, so I've been told. So you holding the brush vertically, not like we tend to. Vertical is the way to go, and you press down and you pull up and then hook back, and that's called a bone stroke. So if you're going to be learning this properly, you should do this a few times and see whether you can repeat what you did the first time. Try not to worry too much about getting my clothes wet. So there's that. That's a bone stroke. And then you might want to do a parallel stroke, which is just an ordinary stroke like that. And I think that it's probably easier to have the brush at a slight angle, but that's probably not correct. So we'll try it like that. It's going to be thicker. So I'd have to probably use a smaller brush to get a thinner one. And then there is another kind of parallel stroke where you press it down and you're having it at an angle and then you lift up. And you can do it the other way as well. So that's very similar to some of the strokes that we do in our normal traditional watercolor, isn't it? And then they suggest you practice tapering strokes where you come down from above, touch with the total point of the brush, and then gradually press down and lift up. And you get, as you know from what we've done before with our Western style of painting, a lovely tapering stroke like that. And of course, you're not supposed to go over it a second time, but who can resist it if the paint kind of runs out? But there we are. And we can start to see bamboo straight away there, can't we? And then there's another one where you start by pressing down and then you lift up. So you press down, lift up. So it makes me think of tadpoles, like that. So that's that. And then you can do bamboo strokes by pressing down, going along and lifting up. Well, actually, no, that's wrong. You press down, then press down again, and you go along and press down again. And then you keep going like that. And that's bamboo, kind of. Then you put in your leaves, which come out like this. And if you want them to be a little bit lighter, you dilute it with a bit of water. Press down and come up. And I suppose you could dilute it a bit more if you wanted. And I'm going to try in a minute how this works on ordinary watercolor paper. So that's quite interesting and it's not difficult. And then you can go ahead from that and you can do something like this. So you could have This is an example, another example, and like I said, you don't have to worry about copying being forbidden. It's not in the Chinese school. So what we've got there, I think they've done outlines for the bamboo. So we haven't looked at the idea of outlines yet, but you could probably just keeping the brush up high, vertical, do something like this. And the idea, apparently, with Chinese painting is to not reproduce nature exactly, but to get the essence or the sense, the feeling of the subject, not the exact representation, which I think goes along quite well with what I've been trying to do. Can do some thin stems and more, and I want to join these ones on with thinness. Maybe this could go all the way down here like that. I think it's quite possible that it might be something, I think probably, a lot of people would get a lot of fun out of this. You don't need much in the way of materials. You don't, of course, need the stone and the inkstone and the block or anything like that. You don't absolutely need that. I'm just going to change my brush. I'm going to go to a smaller one, if I can find a smaller one. I don't know much about this yet. This one, I think I've more or less softened up. Yes, I have. So I'm going to just pick up some brown, just copying exactly what we've got there. And I'm just going to try to lightly, because I've not done this before, I'm not teaching you, I'm showing you me learning. And so whoever did this painting, I think it might have been a professional, because it's on a card, a gift card, and it's got a signature on it. I don't know what that says. Yeah, so there we are. And I could do then the little fine lines. This time I could do it using a fine brush, obviously. And then I'll come back in again with the brown. So it's yet another wonderful use for our fantastic Kuretake paints. And a completely different sort of process, really. I wonder how this one would work if I used it for leaves, because this particular one has got smaller ones, so let's try it. You have to just remember to always keep it vertical. It's hard to remember that. So this one doesn't really seem, it seems perfect for things like that. And you could have, could probably use it for doing veins on the leaves, but you'd have to wait for it to dry first. And it's perfectly good for doing all sorts of fluffy things like this. And I'm sure bamboo has all sorts of fluffy things, but that one is too small really to do the small leaves. So I'll wet up another one. Let's see how this one works. Keep it vertical. That's it. Have to keep it, that's perfect for this one in the background. Keep it vertical. It doesn't come naturally, but it does work. Do a few more over here. Interesting. And we could put, I think this is nearly dry, we could put some more shadows on this larger one. It's not really dry actually. It takes a long time to dry, this paper. And I think there's no reason why you shouldn't go back into the ones you've already done. I don't know whether they would approve of that, but you can definitely emphasize the shape of your leaves by going in with a smaller brush and just putting some shadow or some veins, whatever you want to do. I put a bit more texture on here. If you use the brush without too much paint on it, you get a sort of dry brush effect. And you could emphasize your joints as well. This is kind of a sort of west meets east meets west kind of thing going on here, isn't it? Okay, well, there's the original and there's my version. And I think I might do one with a bit of colour, so perhaps we'll have a go at doing the flower. I hope you're finding this interesting, and I do hope you give it a try. We used to have a lady who, I don't know what happened to her. She either stopped watching or else, I know she was very elderly, so she may have passed away, I'm not sure. And she used to talk to me a lot at great length about the Chinese painting. And at that time, I was so busy trying to get the channel started, I wasn't really able to take up what she was talking about or even really understand it. But I do now. I understand now why she was so keen on trying to get this right. So if you do think you might like to give it a try, it's a very good opportunity to have some of these brushes at a very reasonable cost. And if you've already got the Kuretake paints, then you don't even need to buy any paint because there's black in the Kuretake set. So you're set, so to speak. So I'm going to have a go at this one here, I think. Yeah, why not? And so what I'll do first is the flowers. I don't know if you're supposed to do the flowers first. Let's see what... she doesn't say much about the flowers. But I think I can probably figure out how to paint those. And we'll just wet up our pink. Probably should do a trial on a separate piece of paper. Yeah, I'll do something like that. Okay, so let's see. Just keep it upright. I don't think this paper is very good anymore. I have a feeling it might be just too old. Because like many other things, when it gets old, it tends to leak a lot. So I'm just going to do the two flowers there, I think. And then I'll pick up some grey. Got lots of grey in here. And we'll do some, yeah, I mean, it has bled too much, so. And a big leaf. Just do them really rough like they have. And then we'll put some shape in. After it's dry, I'll probably need to use, I was going to say the tumble dryer. Maybe I do need another pink one up the top. I think I'll do it a bit smaller. Okay, I shall dry it. Okay, so that's dry. So I'm going to attempt to put some veins in the same way that whoever did this painting here did. So using the brush vertically again. And making them really very loose. And with this, it's still somewhat damp, but not very. If you don't use too much water in your brush, it doesn't run as much. And I think that's probably the thing, is to have the right amount of water in your brush, so that, because if you come out with a fairly dry brush, it doesn't run, of course. Not as much. So I'm going to try some quite thick. See, I don't know. I don't really know much about this. I'm going to try some outlining. Yeah, and that doesn't run anywhere near as much. I wouldn't like to say that it looks any better, but it is interesting. Just do a few, not too many. And then we want to put some nice, let's put some dark seeds in the middle. Well, put a little bit more dark on some of these here, and maybe a few kind of little jiggly bits in places, just to give some contrast. I think I'm going to leave it at that. So there we are. That's my practice of my Chinese painting today. So we have some chrysanthemums, some bamboo, and I wasn't unhappy with my little bit of making me think about Christmas. I think we need to start thinking about Christmas. And the set of brushes is available on Amazon, but you won't find it if you just search for Lightwish Chinese brushes. You'll need to use the link that's in the description below here on this video, and use that link, because for some reason they haven't prioritized the sale of this, and it's very, very difficult. At least I have found it impossible, actually. I had to contact the manufacturers because I couldn't find it anywhere on Amazon in any country at all. But they sent me a direct link, so I've now put that link into our description below. So if you want to go and have a look at them, that's the way to do it. And I'll also put a link to a source of the little book that I've been using, and I'll try and find some paper as well that would be suitable for this. I don't know whether my paper is good or bad, but it seemed to work out quite well on this one. It didn't run as much as it did on this one. So it probably is the right kind of paper. It's just me that's not the right kind of artist. But I will persevere, and I will be doing more of these because I think they're rather lovely, don't you? Right, so I will let you go. I hope you enjoyed that. It's a little bit different. And I will see you again on Saturday, hopefully. All being well. Okay, so I'll say bye-bye for now, everyone. Take care, keep well, and have fun. And I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.